The era of the Be Kind Queen has reached a dead end, and the truth is finally spilling out from the people who actually lived through the nightmare. Ellen DeGeneres built a massive media empire on a simple two-word slogan, but behind the scenes, that brand functioned as a calculated lie to protect her power. Those two words were plastered everywhere while the walls closed in on the reality of what happened on that studio floor for 2 full decades. The receipts are finally available for everyone to see, and they describe a woman who used her position to intimidate the very people who built her success. This is not some minor career slump or a temporary dip in popularity, because the world is watching a total career meltdown in real time. The truth is that Ellen is finished, and the rest of the industry has already started moving forward without looking back at her. Joe Rogan stepped forward recently to confirm every whisper that has circulated through Hollywood circles for the last several years. He explained that the energy on that set felt toxic and that Ellen herself would transform into a completely different person the moment those cameras stopped rolling. Since Rogan has a reputation for calling out fake behavior, he did not hold back when he described the uncomfortable vibe that followed the daytime host everywhere. His words confirm that the entire industry was aware of the mean streak she hid behind a dancing persona for the public. That persona was nothing more than a carefully crafted product meant to generate billions of dollars in advertising revenue every single year. Rogan's statement acts as the final nail in the coffin because it proves the facade was never a reflection of the real woman. The host went into detail about how the celebrity atmosphere changed the moment the red light on the camera went off. He noted that the warmth people saw on television was like a light switch that she could flip at will, leaving behind a cold and distant personality. The truth is that this was not just a bad day or a mood swing, but a fundamental part of how she operated within her professional circle. Rogan's confirmation was important because it broke the silence that many other celebrities had maintained out of fear of her influence. Once a powerhouse like Rogan spoke up, it gave others the permission they needed to finally admit they had seen the same behavior. This was not just gossip or rumors, but a verified account from someone who has spent years observing the behavior of the most famous people on the planet. Long before Rogan went public, Rosie O'Donnell tried to warn the world about what was really happening behind the scenes. As the original queen of daytime television, Rosie saw right through the act that Ellen performed for her millions of viewers every afternoon. The records show that Rosie was right the entire time regarding how Ellen treated her peers and the staff who worked on her show. For years, people dismissed these warnings as bitterness, but now those same people realize she was the only one brave enough to tell the truth. Rosie O'Donnell accurately identified the coldness and the total lack of kindness that existed within that daytime empire. The truth has finally caught up to the host, and Rosie finds herself vindicated by the hard evidence coming from dozens of former employees. The career meltdown reached a fever pitch when the final Netflix special was released as a last-ditch effort to save her public image. Instead of offering a real apology, Ellen gave the world 70 minutes of self-pity and excuses that failed to connect with the audience at home. During that special, she admitted that she had been kicked out of show business while acknowledging the Be Kind brand became a heavy weight around her neck. The receipts from the box office and the streaming metrics show that the public has lost interest in hearing any more of these excuses. People are finished with the fake smiles and the dancing because they know exactly how the workers were treated behind the curtain. What was supposed to be a grand comeback turned into a public admission that her career in the spotlight is officially over. A deep dive into the workplace environment reveals a level of control and manipulation that most people would find impossible to believe if it was not documented. Documents prove that a literal rule existed where staff members were banned from making eye contact with Ellen while she walked the halls. This was not a rumor or some light-hearted joke, but a confirmed policy that established a culture of fear throughout the entire set. If a lower-level employee dared to look at the host, they risked losing their job and being blacklisted from the entertainment industry forever. The truth is that this specific rule functioned to dehumanize the staff and ensure that Ellen never had to acknowledge the people making her wealthy. This eye contact policy stands as one of the most shocking pieces of evidence gathered during this entire investigation. The eye contact rule was just the tip of the iceberg when it came to the bizarre requirements for working on that set. The receipts show that there were specific instructions on how to approach her, what topics were off-limits, and how much space employees had to give her in the hallways. These rules were designed to create a barrier between the star and the people who were working 12-hour days to make her look good. The result was an environment that led to high levels of burnout and a constant state of anxiety for everyone from the writers to the camera crew. When you look at the forensic evidence of these workplace policies, it becomes clear that kindness was never part of the actual business model. The brand was the only thing that mattered, while the human beings behind the brand were treated as disposable tools for her success. Internal investigations led by top-tier law firms resulted in the immediate firing of several high-ranking producers who stood accused of creating this hostile environment. But the truth is that these producers were merely executing the vision of the woman who owned the show and set the tone for everyone else. The receipts from that internal audit proved that toxicity was baked into the very foundation of the production from day one. It was a workplace where people stayed silent because they knew the professional consequences of speaking out would be devastating. The contracts and the strict non-disclosure agreements were the only things that kept these secrets hidden from the public for so long. But once the first leak reached the press, the entire structure began to crumble until there was no way to stop the information from flowing. The audit uncovered more than just a toxic culture, as it revealed specific instances of professional retaliation against those who spoke up. The receipts show that when employees tried to report the behavior to human resources, their complaints were often shared directly with the people they were complaining about. This led to a system where the victims were punished and the abusers were protected by the legal department and the executive producers. And this is where it gets worse, as the investigation found a coordinated effort to suppress the truth and maintain the profitable image of the show at all costs. The lawsuits and the settlements that followed are the evidence that this was not just a misunderstanding but a massive failure of leadership. The forensic breakdown of these legal documents shows that the company paid out millions to keep these stories from reaching the front page. The financial destruction of the brand has been absolute, and the numbers tell a story of a total collapse in consumer trust. Before the show finally went dark, the ratings suffered a massive 37% drop in a single broadcast year, and that is a death sentence in daytime TV. This sudden loss of millions of viewers meant that major corporate sponsors began pulling their money to find safer environments for their advertisements. Even the Be Kind subscription boxes, which were a massive revenue stream for Ellen, saw a total collapse in their subscriber base almost overnight. You simply cannot sell the concept of kindness to a global audience when they know you treated your own staff members with such disregard. The financial receipts show a loss of millions of dollars that will never be recovered by her or her production company. The loss of sponsorships was not just a minor setback, but a total collapse of the show's economic foundation that led to its eventual cancellation. Major brands like furniture companies and clothing lines that had partnered with her for years suddenly realized that her name was no longer an asset. The receipts from the final seasons show that the cost of producing the show was starting to outweigh the revenue coming in from the declining ad sales. This financial reality is what finally forced the network to pull the plug, regardless of what the host wanted to do. What nobody expected was how fast the support from the executives disappeared once the show stopped being a cash cow. The financial receipts show that by the time the final episode aired, the show was a ghost of its former self in terms of both ratings and profit. When Ellen tried to pivot into a new phase of her career, she was met with a wall of rejection from an industry she once dominated with ease. The massive brand deals that once defined her portfolio have completely vanished as companies look for more stable and less controversial partners. The truth is that she has transformed into a major liability for any brand that values a positive and inclusive public image. The receipts show that her production company has gone silent, and the steady stream of new content has dried up entirely. This is exactly what a total career meltdown looks like when a major celebrity loses the trust of the general public. The money has finished flowing and the power she once used to control Hollywood has been stripped away by the evidence of her own actions. Even the way she has chosen to respond to the crisis has only served to further damage her already fragile reputation. Instead of taking real accountability or showing genuine remorse, she has spent her time framing herself as a victim of a coordinated cancellation. The receipts show that she truly believes she is the one who has been wronged, despite the testimony given by dozens of former employees. This total lack of self-awareness is the primary reason why the public has decided to walk away for good. People are often willing to forgive a single mistake, but they are not willing to forgive a 20-year pattern of behavior that hurt so many workers. Her refusal to own the damage she caused is the exact reason why every comeback attempt has failed to gain any traction. The decision to relocate to the United Kingdom is seen by industry insiders as a final act of desperation to escape the shadow of her destroyed American career. The receipts show that she is searching for a fresh start in a place where she hopes the public is not as familiar with the details of her downfall. But the reality is that the internet has made the world far too small for anyone to outrun a reputation of this magnitude. Moving across the ocean does not change the factual history of what took place on that studio floor in Southern California. None of that mattered, because you can change your physical location, but you cannot change the legacy of how you treated people when you held all the cards. This move signals the end of her time as a relevant figure in American entertainment. The investigation into the toxic workplace culture also uncovered unsettling details about how the celebrity guest list was managed and manipulated. The receipts show that even A-list stars were starting to feel the tension and the discomfort that permeated the set during every taping. Many famous people who were once considered close friends of the show began to distance themselves the moment the allegations were made public. They did not want their own personal brands to be tainted by an association with a host accused of such serious workplace misconduct. The truth is that Hollywood functions like a small town, and once you are labeled as toxic, the invitations to the best parties and the biggest projects disappear. The empty chairs on her stage during those final months were a visual representation of her isolation from the industry. The legal teams responsible for the internal review had to sift through thousands of emails and private text messages to uncover the truth about the set. These documents provided the hard evidence necessary to confirm that the staff was being mistreated as part of the daily routine. The receipts show that formal complaints were regularly ignored, and the people who tried to stand up for themselves were often punished or forced out of their positions. This was a systematic effort designed to keep the reality of the situation from ever reaching the public or the corporate advertisers. The result was that the lawyers discovered a mountain of evidence that could not be blamed on a few rogue producers or a single bad day. The ultimate responsibility for the culture always rested with the woman whose name was on the building. The end of the daytime show was just the first step in a long process of professional fallout that has left her with nothing. The truth is that she has lost her status as a cultural icon, and she has been replaced by voices that actually practice the values they preach. The receipts show that the daytime audience has moved on to hosts who are perceived as more genuine and who treat their production staff with basic human respect. The massive hole she left in the network schedule was filled quickly, and the ratings for her replacement have proven to be much more stable and reliable. This proves that the public never actually needed Ellen specifically, as they were just looking for a positive experience, and they are happy to get it elsewhere. The era of the untouchable celebrity has officially come to a close, and Ellen stands as the primary example of that shift. When the Netflix special For Your Approval finally premiered, it became clear that Ellen was not actually interested in the approval of the people she hurt. The receipts from the performance show a woman who was clearly angry and bitter about being held accountable for her past actions. She spent a significant portion of the set mocking the very idea that she should be expected to be kind all the time. This move was a massive strategic error because it confirmed to the audience that the Be Kind brand was nothing more than a marketing gimmick. The truth is that she finally showed her real face to the world, and the world decided they did not like the person she had become. It was a self-inflicted wound that effectively ended any chance she had for a real redemption story in the future. A forensic look at her production company's financials shows a staggering decline in both assets and projected future earnings. The truth is that many of the television programs she was executive producing have been cancelled or quietly moved to other production houses. The receipts show that her name has become a liability that prevents projects from moving forward or securing the necessary Funding. The loss of these production deals represents a decline of tens of millions of dollars in potential income that she will never see. She is no longer the Hollywood power player who can get any idea greenlit with a simple phone call or a text message. Her influence has completely evaporated, and her seat at the head of the table has been taken by a new generation of leaders. The legacy of Ellen DeGeneres will no longer be defined by her early success or her groundbreaking moments in television history. The truth is that she will be remembered as a cautionary tale for what happens when a celebrity starts to believe their own marketing. The receipts show that the public is much more fascinated by the behind-the-scenes drama than they are by any of her old jokes or dancing routines. This is a cold and quiet end for a career that began with so much promise and changed the landscape of television for a time. But the reality is that the way you treat the people who work for you matters far more than the trophies on your shelf. Ellen learned this lesson far too late to save her reputation or the empire she spent decades building. The receipts prove that every single warning from the staff and her industry peers was a critical piece of a much larger puzzle. The truth is that the puzzle is now finished, and it shows a picture of a woman who chose her own power over the well-being of others. The legal facts, the massive financial losses, and the total public rejection all point toward the exact same conclusion. Ellen DeGeneres is finished, and the entertainment industry is finally free of the toxic environment she allowed to flourish. The price of her lies was the loss of her entire career and a legacy that will forever be stained by her actions. The truth is finally out for everyone to see, and there is no path back from the evidence that has been presented to the world.